Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Remember the quote, "People don't quit jobs, they quit managers"? Our first story is exactly about that. Sorry, I'm no longer an employee of the company. At my last job, my main duty was the IT manager for the entire location, among other duties. I'd been there for 3.5 years at that point, and as I was trusted by everyone, if I had something important to say, people listened. During COVID, while other departments' budgets were getting slashed and employees were getting laid off, I was able to replace a lot of our aging IT infrastructure. At the beginning of my last year there, the owner hires a young, I only tell the truth, even though you won't like it, narcissist as his second in charge. He hired this bonehead as his successor to run this location, while the owner would focus on opening up a second. In the first 3 months, Bonehead pisses off everyone to the point where 15 people from various positions leave the company to find another job. This is during the pandemic, where a lot of people were thankful they had a job, and 15 people were like, I'm going to risk finding another job in the middle of a pandemic rather than stay here. He was that bad. As Bonehead started to piss off our customer base and our sales started to suffer, we switched over to cost-cutting mode. The owner had largely checked out at this point, so longtime vendors were replaced with friends and family of Bonehead, services were downgraded or cut, pay plans for the sales department were jacked with, which further eroded the morale of the workforce. One day, Bonehead comes to me and tells me to stop doing safety checks and maintenance repair on our products so sales could post larger sales grosses. I loudly objected and went to the owner, as the owner is always happy to hear something about making more money. He threw his support behind Bonehead's idea. A few months of this goes by, and after he fired one of my employees on my birthday because he refused to give Bonehead access to server room, it was restricted to me, owner, and my employee, I knew it was time to go. I find a new job, put in my 2 weeks. Of course, Bonehead stops my direct deposit on payday, the day after I put in my 2 weeks. I decided it wasn't worth working the extra 2 weeks and informed them I am out of there while filing with the state over my wages being withheld. As I'm walking out the door, Bonehead reminds me I'm no longer an employee of the company and not to get involved with the company's affairs and possible legal repercussions if I say anything negative about the company. My new job pays more, less hours, less stress. Fast forward to this Monday. I get a call from my local internet provider. They tell me my internet service bill has gone unpaid for the last 6 months and will get cut off if I don't pay immediately. I log in and see my account is paid. So after a few back and forth, I find out I'm still the point of contact for my last job's account on their internet service. Remember what was told to me when I left? I just informed them I cannot get involved as I no longer work there. They asked me for an updated point of contact. If they can't get one, they'll be forced to suspend their service. I repeated, I am not allowed by threat of legal action to be involved in their affairs, and left it with that. An hour later, a buddy I know who still works there called me and told me they had to stop working as their internet service was shut off. I played stupid, but it took 3 days to restore it. Hope you still got legal action on his weak butt. That dude doesn't sound fit to manage a toilet. And if you actually brought a lawyer to him, I bet he'd break down in tears. And our second story. I found a new way to annoy Karens. To help pay the bills until I get called back to work, I got a job as a personal shopper. It's a bit rough sometimes, but it does get me out of the house for a few hours, and because it's the holidays, it does bring in some decent money. Our company has us wear black t-shirts with the company logo along with face masks due to the bug, but other than that, you can wear pretty much anything you want as long as you look professional. Normally, people don't bother me, especially seeing as 1, I don't have a name tag identifying me, and 2, I'm clearly looking at my phone, which has my customer's order on it, and I'm also communicating with them. Today, I got an order at a certain store that requires its employees to wear a red shirt. Luckily, I'd been to this particular store many times, both for order and for myself, and I'm friendly with most of the staff, including the managers. This particular order required me to go through self-checkout. The customer had already ordered everything, and I just needed to pick everything up. Once I got the all clear from the employee running the self-checkout lane, I went to one of the closed checkout lanes to bag up the order so I could get it to my car. Again, nothing too unusual. I was wearing my black company shirt, a nice pair of jeans, a comfortable pair of sneakers, and a thin jacket. Not a scrap of red on me, and the light for the checkout lane was turned off. As I was packing up, I heard an oncoming cart, and then the sound of plastic and cardboard. I looked up to see our friendly neighborhood Karen unloading her 3 overloaded carts in the closed checkout lane. I was unpacking things away. I groaned. I knew my friends at this store were going to have a major headache just from how she wasn't really paying attention to me and couldn't see I'm not an employee of this store. I finished bagging my things and waited for her to make eye contact with me. And when she did, I swear I heard the theme for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly playing. She pointed at the register and nodded as if I was a dumb person who didn't know what she was supposed to be doing. I just picked up my bags, waved at her with a smile, and walked off, leaving her stuck there and me with a new way to get back at the Karens. Update. I do have a conclusion to the story. Early this morning, I decided to go to the Red store to get my own groceries and bumped into one of the managers. Let's call him Isaac. An important thing to know about Isaac is that he's good at saying, "You've pushed my last button, now get the hell out of here before I go Hulk on your butt," in the most polite way possible. He's also protective of his employees. Anyway, Isaac happened to see me and came over with a teasing smile. "You know, you caused us a lot of trouble yesterday, OP." I asked what he meant, and I hope you have the popcorn ready. Isaac was on duty yesterday after I made my dramatic exit. Karen did as some of you predicted and tried to bully some of the store workers into opening up the register. Unlucky for her, there weren't enough employees around to open extra registers. Her squawking, Isaac's words, not mine, soon attracted Isaac's attention and he came over. Isaac hadn't had the chance to begin his "how may I help you" spiel when Karen began her tirade about me and how employees really need to deliver, especially in these tough times, yada yada yada. Through her and the co-worker at the checkout lane, Isaac figured out what had happened, along with who had offended Karen's delicate sensitivities. "Ma'am, was that a personal shopper who's not employed with our company? We leave this register closed so they can pack up their order. If you want, I'll help you over to the next register and check you out." Isaac doesn't like rewarding bad behavior, but sometimes some battles just aren't worth picking. Now, most normal people would realize their error, apologize profusely to everyone, repack their cart, and go to an open register with meekness and humility. And if she'd done that, Isaac tells me, he would have helped her. Karens, unfortunately, aren't most normal people. Karen decided to puff out her chest and play the weakest card in her hand. "Well, since you're here, I'm not going to call corporate. Do you mind opening up this register and checking me out since I'm already here?" She tried saying this in a sticky, sweet voice, which is one of Isaac's pet peeves. Isaac looked at her and said in a professional but firm, "Ma'am, you're asking me to check you out of a register dedicated just to personal shoppers after harassing not only several employees, but after I volunteered to help you?" Karen, realizing that she had probably peed off the one person who'd been most willing to help her, slowly reloaded her carts and slunk to an open register. Isaac watched her to make sure she wouldn't cause a problem. She meekly paid for her groceries and left. Edit. Some are wondering how she was able to push around 3 loaded carts. I have no clue either, and I wasn't paying attention to her moving those things. All I know is that when I looked up, I saw Karen having unloaded 1 cart and had 2 more full ones by her. Oh, how I wish you had stood by the door and watched her pack everything back up. Another way I've seen here that I like a lot is when the person immediately turns the tables on the Karen and treats her like she works there. Causes them to short circuit a bit. Told my brother I won't help him until he pays me what he owes me. I, 29-year-old male, don't have a good relationship with my parents or my twin brother at all after what went down years ago. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been about earning and saving money, selling, recycling, offering housework on weekends or school breaks. Any money I got on birthdays or Christmas was also saved. Then when I was 14, had an actual part-time job for every day after school plus weekends at my grandpa's work. The goal was to always have this money for college. My parents made good money, but never expected them to pay for that. Around the time I was 18, there was over $28K. Our grandparents gave us each a couple grand as a graduation gift. Guess what my parents decided? Since both of us wanted to go to college, they'd taken out money out of the shared account I had with them when I was still a minor, so the college fund could be split equally. The money I worked my butt off to save when my brother never did anything to earn for himself, and all I ended up with was barely close to $14K. I was royally pissed. We had a huge falling out. My parents effed up taking the money, but it also got me so mad that my brother knew they stole from me and still accepted it. He thought it was only fair too because he wanted to go to college, and we knew with what my parents make, he wouldn't get much in financial aid, so he was fine with taking my money, and I never talked to them again. None of them have even met my girlfriend or our 2-year-old son. That was a huge betrayal for me, which is why when my brother asked me for help recently, I rejected him. He had a small business that opened right before COVID happened, but since crap hit the fan, he had to close it down and lost too much money paying for the spot he was renting out. He came to me since neither him and his wife are making enough to pay what they owe. They might not be able to afford their own place, so he wanted to know if there was any way we could help. It all reminded me of the grinding I had to do in school. Community college wasn't expensive, but once I transferred to university, that money could have come in handy. So it all just reminded me the struggling was because they stole from me. What I ended up telling my brother is I can't forgive him or help him until he pays back what he stole from me. We had a long argument. Bottom line, he's angry and hurt that I won't help because of a mistake he made as a barely 18-year-old when right now they're suffering from real adult problems. Guess what makes me wonder if I'm a jerk is because his wife begged for help too, and she didn't do anything. It's just him that I can't bring myself to help. OP, you did the right thing. Whether he and your parents stole from you or not, whether he tried to pay you back or not, whether you can afford to lose the money or not, you are not responsible for a grown man's finances. And our last story. We share a fence line with the HOA, and it needs to be replaced. We've lived in our home since the neighborhood was built 13 years ago. Every backyard has a 6-foot wood privacy fence, and every house shares a fence line with at least one other neighbor. One of our neighbors is the HOA. Our property backs up to the HOA property and shares a fence line where the community amenities are located. There's a very large walk-in pool, park, and playground which see a lot of foot traffic. The fence has required various repairs over the years due to storm damages, insects, rotting fence posts due to excessive watering by the HOA, vandalism from people at the parks, kids, aging materials, and general maintenance. We have dogs, so the fence is very important and an absolute must-have. We cannot allow our fence to remain down between our home and the entire community. It's extremely difficult to wait for the HOA when immediate repairs are needed, so it's always been easier to take care of the repairs ourselves. Fast forward 13 years and the poor thing's on its last leg. We've gone beyond the repair stage and it needs to be replaced. We've never asked for the HOA to reimburse us for the cost of materials or labor before, but this is different. We need an entire fence line replaced, which will be somewhere around $5K. Update: we contacted surveyors to determine the boundaries of the property, and boy did we get some good news. It turns out that the fence is a little farther away from our lot, and it's the HOA's responsibility to replace/repair it. A month later, there's already a new fence, which I personally like better than the previous one when it was new. Not without its share of luck, but still, good job, OP. HOAs often harass people who are not members, but nonetheless, this is another small victory. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.